Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Adrian Lloyd. This is Just My Stupid Opinion. And I want to start off today just talking about a situation that is currently going down in the Maritimes right now. Some of you may remember that just about a month ago, actually, maybe a little bit more, month and a half or so, I interviewed a professor named Professor Rick Mehta. He worked at the University of Acadia, and I had interviewed him because he had been under some fire just because of a tweet he sent out, which essentially was just calling Andrew Scheer out for hypocrisy as being a defender of free speech, and then throwing Lynn Bayak, a senator from the Conservative caucus, after she said something controversial about the Native people. So I spoke to him, and he was a very nice man. He was nothing remotely close to the radical they tried to paint him out to be. However, the reason I bring him up again is because just the actually was it yesterday or just today? Yeah, just today, actually. Uh, my mistake. It was February 26th. I'm filming this on the 28th, so it was a couple days ago. This article came out from CBC, which was saying that Acadia University launches an investigation into controversial professor. Nature of a complaint against Rick Mehta concerning for the university, says the vice president. So what it goes on to say is that, and Rick Mehta actually himself released the statement that he got from the university, but what they are claiming is that they have received multiple complaints against him about the way he has conducted his class. And as these points go on to say, as I just stated, he did release the letter that he got from the university. So as it says here, just not going to go through the whole thing, but it says, "Dear Rick, I write to you as your designated department head following the term of Article 15.50F to advise you that your professional responsibility and to formally to bring to your attention reported concerns as provided by students in your Psych 1023 and 1123 classes. Since my appointment as designated department head, I have received several complaints from the students and an assistant involved in your course who have indicated that the level of anxiety in the class is high to the extent that some students are not attending class. Students' comments have clustered into 4 areas: content on a test that was not dealt with in class or in assignment readings. That's actually, I would say, a very common complaint that happens in universities. Spending excessive time in class on non-class related matters. Use of non-academic sources for lecture content, and making provocative, racist, and transphobic comments in class." So as I stated, that first point that they made, which was content on a test that was not dealt with in class or in assigned readings, I've had that problem in my college right now. So it's not like it's a unique problem on classes. Sometimes it happens. It's not necessarily intentional. And I don't believe that Professor Mehta intentionally left that shit out. Spending excessive time in class on non-class related matters. Well, again, I'm just going off the perception right now. I sent him a message just showing my support to Professor Mehta, but I haven't actually spoken to him about what's gone down. So this is all just me that's going off this letter so far and what I've read. But as I can tell, when they say spending excessive time in class on non-class related matters, my guess is it's not really non-class related matters. He's probably making references to the modern day examples, and this is where they're making this complaint that it's not in class, it's not class related matters, when in fact what he is doing, especially as a psychologist, this would be almost, you figure this is what they do, they make plenty of examples to real world situations. So this is probably, my guess is what they're they're relating to, because when I hear these complaints put in against him, I've never had him as a teacher, but he doesn't sound like the man I spoke to. Use of non-academic sources for lecture content. Why do I get the feeling that this is, he made one reference or something to Jordan Peterson, and then this is exactly what they're nailing him on? I believe there was something similar in the Wilfrid Laurier situation with Lindsay Shepherd, where they were saying something about using non-class content or inappropriate content, although it was literally TVO debate that she got the information from. So essentially, they want them to stick by the assigned guidelines, which I guess technically, as a university, they can dictate. It is a job and they can dictate that their teachers do that. But I'm personally against this. And this is actually a common complaint that I see is misrepresented as a teacher's problem. In many times in the past, and many professors, teachers that I've spoken to, both, again, we're talking whether college universities or whether we're talking high schools, middle schools, all those. The common complaint actually that I hear amongst the teachers is that they don't have control of the content that they can teach in their class, that they would like the ability to do this, but it's actually the administration and the school boards that don't allow them to stray from the content material, that they have a strict set of rules that they have to apply. And I think that wording right there, that what they said to Professor Mehta, kind of proves that. Here is a man that was trying to teach some off the cuff, a little bit of world, bring a little bit of world experience into his classes. But this is seen as unacceptable because it's going against the grain of what the college, or in this case, the university, wants. And let's not forget that universities these days have become ideological bubbles. So anybody that has anything that would present any information that doesn't quite follow the guidelines to the university would definitely get in trouble, would definitely be reprimanded for this. And one thing that I found in this article that I completely disagreed with, the CBC article, when they were talking about Professor Mehta, is at one point they say Mehta is parroting Jordan Peterson. Well, don't get me wrong, that Professor Mehta and Jordan Peterson think along very similar lines. He is not a parrot of Dr. Jordan Peterson. And in fact, he has his own lectures and speeches online that you can do. Professor Mehta, I'm talking about. He has got a speech he did where he spoke about free speech, and it was about an hour and 45 minutes, I think, if I remember correctly. And these were all Professor Mehta's own ideas. They were his own research. He did all this himself, yet he came to similar conclusions as Dr. Peterson. That does not mean he is parroting him. Professor Mehta comes from his own original place. So I disagree completely. Even if they have similar, if they're talking about similar situations, similar problems, that doesn't make him a parrot. But I found that this was kind of a belittling thing for them to do to this man. This man is very smart, and to just say that all he's doing is just going around being an echo for Dr. Peterson is completely ridiculous. This man got to where he was on his own merits, and the fact that he's been underneath a few controversies in the past and rose above them proves that he's a warrior. And I don't think he could do that just by parroting somebody else. That comes from within. So I have a lot of respect for Dr. Mehta, and this is independent investigation against him. I think it's ridiculous. I can't say that I'm surprised that something like this would happen to him, as we see the natures of what's happening to professors and other faculty members that speak out against the ideology that is just encompassing so many universities now. It encompasses colleges too, and it seeps into areas where it shouldn't. Areas like science. Why do we have this sort of bullshit ideology in science? So once again, the University of Acadia and the mainstream media has attacked Professor Mehta. They've gone after his reputation, and they've tried to slander him. Or I guess slander's technically spoken, so this is libelous since it's written. Whatever. I use those two terms interchangeably. So I'm going to be following this matter quite closely because, like I've said before, he's a good man, and I don't think anything he says, even though they say it's racist, it's transphobic. He got called transphobic because what? He doesn't believe in the multiple gender theory, that there's 26 different genders that are recognized in Canada. I think there's more in there are more in America that are recognized, or in other countries around the world. But right now, I think 26 genders is recognized in Canada. And you know what? I think we all should just start giving the exact same answer on that when people talk about 26 genders as Doug Ford did. I'm sorry, I don't know about 26 genders. So, once again, it looks like we, the people, will have to help Professor Mehta out because he's not going to get any help from the university. He's not going to get any help from the news. We're going to be the ones that are going to have to come to his defense once again. And he deserves it. I mean, don't get me wrong, this man stands up for himself. He can take care of himself, but one man against an army can only stand for so long. So if you think that this sort of behavior is complete bullshit and you think that he is being, I believe that his ability to teach is being infringed on. His academic freedoms are being infringed on rather than the other way around, that he's infringing on other people's rights or freedoms. There is no right to not be offended. There is no right for that. So that is unacceptable to say that you have a right not to be offended. But you know what? I think this will be a good segue into the next bit I want to talk about. So last time I came on, it was like out of nowhere, after we were having our PC leadership race, suddenly we have our 4 candidates, and then Patrick Brown jumps into the race. So there's a lot to talk about there. He's done a lot over the last little bit.
The Ontario PC leadership race has just taken another bizarre turn. Patrick Brown announced today that he's backing down from his bid to get his old job back.
Are you fucking kidding me, Patrick? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Jesus Christ, man, I can't even keep up with this guy. There's so much drama that happens with him that's going on. First, he's accused of sexual assault. Not his problem. I still defend him on that. And he's making his comeback and everything. But then he's jumping into this race. Whoa, okay, fine. But then you're jumping out of this race to defend the accusation, something people were telling you right off the start. So, Jesus Christ, Patrick. You've been quite drama-filled over the last couple months. Calm down and take a chill pill. Either run for the fucking premiership or defend yourself, or do both at the same time, but make up your damn mind. Because you said you're going to defend yourself, you're focusing on defending yourself, then you want to get your premiership back, and then you're saying you're going to do both, you're going to clear your name and get your title back, and now suddenly you're out and you just want to focus on clearing your name. Meanwhile, a lot of these accusations have fallen apart. Like, these 2 accusations are just falling to pieces to the point where nobody believes them anymore, and for good reason. We shouldn't just believe people for the sake of believing them, but holy shit, Patrick. And I don't know, I actually think that dropping out may do more damage to him than he thinks this time. He still garnered a lot of support for what happened to him back in the end of January, so I'm not expecting that to have been a problem for him. But now, when he gets back in, and the people who did still support him, they were like, oh yes, our guy Patrick's back in the race. And then you just disappoint them yet again. So I think Patrick Brown has actually done more damage to his reputation career by dropping out again, by entering the race, by entering the race and then dropping out once, especially this all happened over the course of like a month almost, pretty much, where he was out, he was back in, then he was out. So it's hard to keep up with everything that was going on. But now, if he wants, he could still stay on as a member of, well, he's been kicked out of the Conservative Party, so he could stay on as an independent caucus member. But if he wanted to really try and reapply later on for the progressive conservative leadership, or try and make himself a bigger career again, I don't know if people are going to take him on again after he does this. I think he may have just screwed himself officially. And in this case, he did it to himself. This would be completely his fault for getting back in the race and then dropping out, bringing your supporters up and then dropping out. Not to mention, you started campaigning, so you kind of wasted people's time and money by doing this. So, not super impressed. And this is exactly what Doug Ford said from the beginning. Now, I didn't want Patrick Brown to win. I still to this day want Doug Ford to win. I will be voting for Doug Ford. And we're going to be getting to the voting process in a minute. But I didn't like the way Patrick Brown went out. But why? Like, I gotta admit, I kind of forget where I was going with this. I kind of slipped my mind there for a second, but anyway, I guess what I'm just saying is that he's kind of destroyed himself by doing this. And you know what? It sucked that he had to go out that way, but if with the doors open, like I said, Doug Ford all the way. Now, important information. 1 second. This is what you get. This is the important leadership voting information. If you have gotten yourself a progressive conservative membership, then you should have gotten that by now. And if you didn't, there's a couple numbers you can call. You can call them on you can call them at the website, the headquarters for the Progressive Conservatives. However, Doug Ford has also offered a number if you need help with that. There's also a page called Ontarians for Doug Ford, who is also helping with that. So there's information out if you're having trouble registering that you can call and get in contact with people, and they're pretty good at getting back to you very quickly. I didn't have too much trouble registering, but what ends up happening is right down here. I'm not going to give you my verification code, but just in the middle, you will get a verification code. You go online, and then you have to register to vote. You have to make sure you do this. It's already February 28th, the last day of the month. You have to register by the 2nd because the voting goes from the 2nd to the 8th. All online, which does make me nervous. I'm not going to lie. I get the feeling that this is going to be one way they're going to try and actually screw Doug Ford out of winning the premiership or the leadership of the Conservative Party. He's not the one that they want in power. And I do not trust Vic Fideli whatsoever to root out the rot, as he put it, because he said that's what he's going to do. And he was completely against Patrick Brown, wanted him out too. But I don't actually trust Vic Fideli. I have no reason to trust Vic Fideli. He's just one of these other establishment members who is going to root out the rot in quotation marks. Because really what he's going to do is he's going to out some people, and mostly they're going to be Patrick Brown's people because it's a perfect time. They can all pin this on him, especially considering what we've heard so far about memberships being faked, blah, 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 blah. But I don't trust the leadership of the Conservative Party. I don't believe they're actually going to root out any rot like they talk about. So that makes me nervous when they want to do all online voting. I get the feeling that they're going to some way screw Doug Ford over. Because all the polls right now that I've ever looked at, Doug Ford is wanted by Ontarians. That's what people want, and we're the ones who vote. I'm the Conservative caucus members, I believe they can also vote in these as well. But they only represent themselves, they represent their ridings, but they don't actually represent what the people want. If you go looking and actually listening to real people, you go online, you go outside, you talk to people, everybody wants Doug Ford. So it makes me nervous, though, that this is what we're going to be doing. That online voting, it can be hacked, it can be faked. There's so much you can do. And we already have problems in the manual way of doing this. There's so many possibilities of things that can go wrong. Even if people just wanted to hack in and fuck with us, whether that happens to be another country trying to fuck with our elections, or whether that's just some troll somewhere looking to fuck around with an election. Now, don't get me wrong, that would be a serious thing to do for a troll, just to go around and fuck with an election, but I would not put it past some trolls. Okay. Let's turn our attention back to Trudeau. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about Trudeau in India, again, because there's a lot happened over the last week, but I'm not going to go too much into details about it, like not go too far into it, because I'm actually this weekend going to be speaking to someone from India. He's going to come on, we're going to have a good conversation, and we're going to be talking about all these situations, Trudeau in India, the relationship that we have between our two countries. We're going to be talking about we're hearing a lot about the Khalistani, the Sikh extremist separatists in India, and both Canada and Trudeau's relationship with them. So we're going to be discussing that. There's going to be a lot going on. It's going on this weekend. It's actually going to be late just because time zone differences. We're something like 12 hours at least apart. So it'll be 1:30 in the morning when I'm interviewing him, actually. So this Sunday, if anybody's up and wants to join me, feel free. We're going to be doing a live stream, a YouTube live stream. But anyway, the reason I bring up Trudeau again is because something did just get released in the paper the other day, and it's that Justin Trudeau appointed former Omar Khadr lawyer as a federal judge. Yeah, Omar Khadr's lawyer, who is defense lawyer John Norris, that's who he's appointed as a federal judge. Unbelievable. And as this article from Global News talks about, it says, the appointment of Toronto-based lawyer John Norris was announced by Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould Monday. Elizabeth Walker, a lawyer and chairperson for the RCMP External Review Committee, was also appointed to the position. Jesus Christ. Like, the man who defended one of the most notorious terrorists in Canadian society, well, maybe not the most notorious, but, modern day, he's definitely the poster boy of Canadian terrorism. And Justin Trudeau appointed him as a federal judge. Now, let's remember, when Justin Trudeau paid out the money to Omar Khadr, which was $10.5 million, he said because we couldn't fight him in the court system, we would have lost, blah, blah, blah. We did the best things that was for Canadians. Sorry about that. Phone started to ring. So, when the payment was made to Omar Khadr, Justin Trudeau said, we couldn't fight him in the courts. We would have lost. We did everything we can. The best decision we could for Canadians. And now you're also going to appoint the same man just a few months later as a federal judge, the man who defended him. Yeah. So any possibility of no collusion there for Trudeau seems to have gone out the window just by doing that. Because just a few months later, you appoint the same man who is in a high-profile case against the rest of the citizens? Fuck off, Justin. Fuck off, Justin. And let's not forget that this isn't, the connection and the amount of sympathy Justin Trudeau has for terrorists in our country is unbelievable. $10.5 million to Omar Khadr. There was a couple other ones who are demanding a few, tens of millions of dollars from the Canadian government because of mistreatment. Oh, I'm sorry, did the murderers and terrorists get mistreated? Oh, I feel so terribly for them. Last March of 2017, he made sure that a Canadian terrorist got his citizenship back. And then there's been conversations recently of bringing that Jihadi Jack, who was a well-known recruiter for ISIS, and I think he also did some fighting for ISIS too, not just recruiting, who is from the UK, has requested that he wants to come to Canada. Yeah, I guess that word has spread that Canada is so sympathetic on terrorists that one of the most notorious recruiters now says, I want to go spend time in Canada. And apparently, the Trudeau government is actually in conversation with them. Are you fucking kidding me? Our prime minister is literally colluded with terrorists and criminals. Let's not forget Joshua Boyle, too. That one wasn't that long ago either. That was the man that back in October who was his family was picked up from Afghanistan after being imprisoned there for 5 years, and then before Christmas time, from like beginning of October to before Christmas time, he had like 30 fucking charges against him for sexual abuse and harassment and battery and this and that and the other, all within a couple months. And one of the most disgusting things that I actually did sort of see from the beginning, and I kind of pointed it out to other people, but nobody saw it until this came back out, until we heard about Joshua Boyle's criminal charges, was when Joshua Boyle met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. There was a picture taken of them inside the office. Now, if you ignore Trudeau and you ignore Joshua Boyle and take a look over to his wife, that picture of his wife, she looked miserable. She looked like she was living the worst fucking life in the world. And this is a woman who just got out of Afghanistan after being imprisoned for 5 years, and she had her children in this goddamn prison camp, this Al-Qaeda prison camp. She comes back to a country, is meeting with the prime minister of that country, and she looks like she's having the worst fucking life in the world? You figure her life would never be better at that point. She got out of a terrorist camp. She came to a country that was free, and she got to meet the leader of that country that brought her in. You figure that she would be happy about that, but no. Something was wrong in that picture, and she was miserable. And now we know. But you know what? Plenty of people saw what I saw too. As I noticed that too, going on when I went online after this picture was circulating, is that a number of people were pointing to his wife's face and saying, "Look at that. She looks miserable. Like, what the hell is going on?" Let's not forget, Joshua Boyle was also married to Zainab Khater, who is the sister of Omar Khater. Oh my god, we're just forming a nice spider web of freaking terrorist connections to Justin Trudeau. And if it's not terrorist connections, it's goddamn dictatorship connections. Let's not forget what he said about China. I have respect for China's basic dictatorship. It allows them to get things done. He praised Fidel Castro. And I'm sure there's been a couple other dictators he's praised, but I honestly can't keep up. I honestly can't. All right. Putting that aside, let's talk a little bit about India and what ended up going on in there. Let me pull up my folder of information. Yes, an entire folder of information just of Justin Trudeau in India. It's unbelievable. And let's see if I've got the timeline down correct. Last time I was here, the last time we left Justin Trudeau in India, he had been touring the Taj Mahal, having a nice vacation, and he was also decked out in some of the nicest yet over-the-top robes and other clothing that we could see. He was called too Indian for Indians, too Bollywood for Bollywood. And as things went on, it was even more of a disaster. It was even more of a disaster for several different reasons. The way he acted, the people that came down. Because one thing that ended up happening, and on my timeline, I'm sorry, it's going to be a little all over the place. I'm trying to keep it in order, but things just happened so quickly and there was so much. So, what ended up happening was that just a couple days after Justin Trudeau got in India, Aga Khan showed up in India. The same Aga Khan that Justin Trudeau got in trouble for, that violated 4 sections of the ethics code a couple years ago, or a year ago, I should say, at Christmas. Yeah, that Aga Khan. He happened to show up in India. What a coincidence! Justin Trudeau there, now Aga Khan showing up. Oh my God, how could something like that happen? So that was the first thing. Who knows what the fuck they talked about or what goddamn fucking decisions they made. And oh man, perfect timing. Because it gave Justin Trudeau an excuse. He's over there with the family, but he's also doing business. Oh, maybe Aga Khan has business too. That's why he's in India. That's why Aga Khan's in India. He's got business. Yeah, his business was with Justin Trudeau, and who knows how much money we're giving Aga Khan and his goddamn foundations now. Oh, that's right. And then the the High Commissioner for Canada to India, Nader Patel, invited an attempted assassin to an event in India. Jaspal Atwal in the 80s was arrested for attempting to assassinate an Indian politician in Vancouver. He spent time in jail for that and then was invited to India to an event like this. He was part of the extremist Khalistani movement, the separatist movement. The same type of movement, maybe not exactly the same type of movement, but the same umbrella group of people that carried out the Air India bombing. The Air India 182, I think it is. Air India Flight 182, I think it is. He at least was underneath the same umbrella of the Khalistani people. Maybe he was a separate group, but he was an extremist prepared to do violence, and they invited him. That was by our High Commissioner for Canada to India, because with our relationship with India, we don't just have diplomats, we have High Commissioners. Holy shit. And then, if that didn't make it any worse, there are countless photos of liberal politicians posing with Jaspal Atwal. In fact, we first came to notice him when there was a picture that went viral of Sophie Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's wife, when she did a picture with Jaspal Atwal. Yeah. And it's what I thought was a little funny is that now Trudeau has been denying it, and there's been a whole shit fest over there, which we're probably going to get more into when I do my live stream on Sunday. But one thing that is happening is that Trudeau and the government has denied that they were the ones who invited him. However, all we have to do is look at this invitation that was sent. That it clearly indicates that it is Nader Patel inviting Jaspal Atwal to this event. And just take a look at the paper and the seal. It's got the Canadian leaf in the back. It's got our government seal. It's clearly a government invitation. Yet we try to deny it. Well, we didn't try to deny it. Trudeau and his cabinet tried to deny it. Oh, when he was at the Taj Mahal, the Trudeaus got a private tour of the Taj Mahal. By the time they were done, 30,000 Indians were waiting outside the Taj Mahal to get into it. Justin Trudeau and his family literally went over and acted like they were the fucking royalty over there. They went over and disrespected every single Indian citizen there by going in, telling them, it might be your country, this might be a holy site to you, but you can wait. We're getting a private tour. Fuck you, Justin. Fuck you. You don't get to go into other countries and do that. You already walk around this country like you're the fucking king. You don't get to go around other countries and act like you're the fucking king of those people too. How disrespectful are you? How fucking disrespectful. Son of a bitch. And then another thing that became very apparent is Trudeau's trip was a disaster. Oh, wait. I don't want to get to that part yet, actually. Sorry. We're going to hold off on that part because there's still one more thing. Two more things. Very quickly, there is a well-known Indian magazine called Outlook Magazine, and they were invited to an event with Justin Trudeau. Except they wrote a critical article of Trudeau the day before, and 1 hour before that event happened, their invitation was pulled. They were told that it was a mistake. They weren't supposed to get the invitation. Bullshit. Because once again, we have the invitation. And it's the exact same thing as the Jaspel Atwal invitation. It's got our government seal. It's got our fucking logo on there. And the reporter, it says, there it is, Nader Patel inviting. And it was Mr. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Pranay Sharma. And that was the journalist who was for Outlook magazine who was supposed to go and cover the event. But 1 hour before the event, invitation was pulled. And they tell him, oh, no, it wasn't for that. And actually, here is the cover that they ended up putting out that pissed Justin Trudeau off. Picture Justin Trudeau, Khalistan 2, made in Canada. And that's because Justin Trudeau, amongst the Sikh community in Canada, has so much support amongst the Khalistani separatists, these extremists who are fighting back against the Indian government. Now, as far as I can tell, that sort of died out in the 90s, but it's a rising sentiment again. Over the last couple of years, the Khalistani movement has been gaining more support. And a lot of that support is coming from Canada. So that was the article that was written talking about that exact situation. Then their invitation got pulled. Then we have Justin Trudeau, who said that he forgot how old our country was. When he was talking about the celebrations that happened in Canada, this is what he said. Hold on, it just takes a second to load for my computer. Here we go.
Our countries both marked some big milestones. You celebrated the 70th anniversary of Indian independence, and we celebrated the 100th anniversary of Canadian Confederation.
100? Oh, come on, Justin. Tell me you don't remember that big rubber ducky. That big 150 rubber ducky that you spent so much money on that was so fucking pointless. Come on, you gotta tell me you remember that giant rubber ducky. When you spend so much money on that giant rubber ducky, you can't tell me that you fucking don't remember how old our country is, you fucking idiot. And then he also said when he was in a press conference about his biggest complaint he hears from Canadians is this.
And quite frankly, the most common complaint I get from Canadians, from Canadian businesses, from people in general is you're not bringing in enough immigrants. Mm-hmm. And that's a rare thing in this world.
Yep. Apparently, he says the biggest complaint he hears is that that we're not bringing enough immigration. Oh, really, Justin? Is that really the complaint you hear from us? Oh, if only there was more immigration, everything in Canada would be fine. No problems. We don't even have to get into that in order to see the problems with that. And then, as if he couldn't possibly embarrass us anymore. Is I actually don't know if that's supposed to be some sort of Indian native dance or something like that. But if it is, Justin Trudeau destroyed it. And he's already embarrassed us enough over there. And then he's got to show us his dancing. Oh, Jesus. Okay, now there is some important background information that I figured out while I was looking into this whole situation with Justin Trudeau. Now, actually, sorry, I shouldn't say I figured it out. This is the person I'm going to be speaking to on Sunday he actually was the one who mentioned it to me. Now, the one thing that he told me was that, hold on. Here we go. He left a comment on the one I made, and it says, "This is a great analysis, more or less on the mark. I live in India, and let me tell you that mostly what turned the Trudeau trip into a dumpster fire was basically liberal virtue signaling and a dash of arrogance." I would actually say more than a dash, but he's being generous. He was told by the Indian government to finish the business first and then tour the country. He refused. This became very obvious considering it was within the last day that Justin Trudeau actually met up with the Prime Minister and conducted the business, because it turned out after a couple days of Maori being there, we found out that he only had like half a day at most of business to do with the Indian government. So yes, he should have just gone there and gotten it over with and then enjoyed his vacation. But he didn't. And this is actually what pissed off, one of the things that pissed them off. And he goes on to say, "And when the Indian government raised justified concerns regarding this pandering to the Khalistani vote bank, he refused to address them. So Prime Minister Modi didn't receive him at the airport. And basically, he had to give himself the grand tour of India, followed by disastrous press, and the picture and the invite of Jaspal Atwal was just like a 1-2 KO. After this, Trudeau had no leverage with PM Modi and had to sort of agree to whatever he could get from the Indian side so as to not permanently damage the relationship beyond repair." That is the bad deal that he's talking about. Sorry, I keep getting text or something, so I'm just going to shut the volume on my phone off. But that's the deal that he was talking about that we struck. The one that I was raging about last time about how we were losing $500 million. That $500 million was going into India and as a trade deficit. And it was for this reason Trudeau couldn't negotiate because he pissed them off so much. And he goes on to say, "The icing on the cake was that all the Indian traditional wear donned by him and his family were over the top, and it came off as patronizing. Believe me, I can imagine." I mean, if Trump showed up wearing a fucking Mountie uniform, I'd find that very patronizing. "It really cheesed off the Indian public. The whole affair made me squirm at the fact that the world leader can be this disconnected." Believe me, bud, we'll talk a little bit about that when you come on the podcast, because he's a lot more disconnected with here at home too. "I'm sure Canada is a great country and Canadians are nice people, but Prime Minister Trudeau did not do a good job representing the Canadian people." I agree 100% there, my friend. "I hope the next time that we can make real progress in India-Canada relations." I agree. I hope we can too, because I believe we do need support our Indian allies over in Asia right now, because they are big about democracy over there. That is one thing that Canada and India have very much in common, is that we hold democracy quite high. And for that reason, that we are strong in wanting to spread democracy in that location. And I am really looking forward to the conversation I'm going to be having with this gentleman, Arjun. It's going to be fantastic. And we're going to get into several different topics, and I think we're really going to show the real problems that happened going on in India. We're not going to get this color-coded Canadian press that they usually tend to show us. And I mean, there's been plenty of articles from India that went around, and that's where we were seeing a lot of the criticisms of Trudeau. It was in the international media rather than the Canadian media. So it's going to be awesome to get the perspective of somebody who actually lives in the country, who actually had to sit there and watch this idiot go through their country and say, really? Really? I mean, it was so bad that apparently Donald Trump Jr. even had a better reception than Justin Trudeau was there. Oh, that's gotta hurt. So the last thing is I'm actually not talking about the budget on this episode because of I'm actually going to be doing a two-parter for that. I'm going to be releasing a video, which is pretty much the first part of it is going to be the first video is going to be a complete response to Bill Morneau's speech at the beginning before he actually released what the budget was. You know, they give a speech. So while that was going on, I was actually following along, and I was finding a lot of problems with what he was saying, like both factually and just some ideologically. There were some we have disagreements, so it's going to be more of a response, the first part, to his speech, and the second half of the budget is going to be covered in a live stream where we go more into detail about the actual details of the budget itself. And that I'm going to be doing with Top Leaf this weekend. That's probably going to be this Saturday, I think. And we're going to go more into that budget. And that one will be more about the detail itself of what's in the budget, what they're offering. The first part is completely just my response to Bill Morneau. So that's going to be covered in a separate one. But the last thing I wanted to talk about today on the agenda was... Well, I guess I got two more things, actually. All right, the first one is the immigration changes that are going on, which is, for those who remember, it's happened over the last week that the Canadian government unveiled that they were going to make it easier for immigrants with medical conditions to come over here and come over and immigrate to Canada. Now, I asked Top Leaf about this when we were streaming together last time, what he thought about it. And he's like, sort of seemed to fall in the middle. He's like, I can see how people take advantage, but do we really want to do this? Blah, 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 blah. I didn't really, and again, we had disagreements on there, but I wasn't there to challenge him or anything really then. Although I think now that we're starting to get more comfortable with each other, we can start challenging each other's on our points of view. So that's good. But my problem with it is that I actually do think that this is something that is going to be taken advantage of. I think when you lax the immigration laws and you're going like this, you're going to see the rise of what they call the economic migrant, I believe is that what they call them, which is people who aren't actually in or economic refugee, I think that's what they call them, which are people not actually in a situation that requires them to get out of their country. They're not a real refugee, but they're people who pose as refugees because they want to go somewhere where they can have a better life, but they don't go through the regular immigration process for whatever reasons, whether it's they can't afford it, they know they won't get in through the regular process, but they find other ways to get in, and then they use the system when they're here. When we do this, we're just inviting economic migrants to come in. Because the other thing is, when we work on Canada, at least at one point, did have a very good immigration system. Now, that I actually think is being torn down by Justin Trudeau. As he's laxing our laws, our merit-based system that we used to have is almost gone. If we have a merit-based immigration system, that is who's going to be productive, who's going to be the most successful in our country, and those are the ones that we're going to bring over, then it seems to me that this change inside of this change to the immigration policy based on medical conditions is unnecessary, because we would gladly bring in an immigrant who's going to contribute more to Canadian society and more to the economy, even if they required more care from our health system. Now, the other problem is our health system. Our health system is not very good right now. We have a lot of people that can't get the care they need in a timely fashion. And a lot of people that we're dealing with I think they call them hallway patients or hallway care, which is just, you're literally sitting in a hallway, you can't even get into an actual room. But so you ended up getting treated in the actual hallways. So we're having these problems now. Now we want to invite a group of people over that are just going to fill up that system even more. And we we have a socialist healthcare system. We pay through our taxes and stuff, and the government funds it, which means that these people who do come in and want to use it, take advantage of it, then we are stuck paying for their medical conditions. It's not quite the same where it is if it was in America, where they could come in and putting aside things such as the Obamacare that's in place but they may have to pay for their own medical expenses, or they have to buy their own insurance and things like this, then this would actually probably make the migrant with the medical conditions make them less likely wanting to come over. But if you make your medical care free and then you say, oh, well, all your conditions can be handled, you just got to come to Canada, then they'll come over, and they're just going to, which is going to take up more time, more room inside the hospitals. It's going to require more time from the doctors, and the citizens start getting less care. So this is my problem I have with it, is I don't think it's a good system. I think that it should there's no need for it. I really don't think there is, because all it does is encourage the economic migrant. And I think there is money in the budget, if I remember correctly. I'd have to check. That went to immigration, so I think this is be something that Topleaf and I will disagree on when we have our next live stream. And the last one is that Eric Hoskins, he was an MPP for St. Paul's, and he was also our health minister. He's a lot of people have credited him for the way of Ontario's healthcare system is now, for working for Kathleen Wynne. He's saying that he was the architect who helped destroy Canada's healthcare system, Ontario's healthcare system. Now, as it seems, he's stepping down as an MPP for St. Paul because he's going to head a national pharmacare strategy. Yeah. Because it's funny actually. I've noticed just how the Liberal government keeps stealing all of the NDP's platform points. Like Justin Trudeau's Liberal government steals the NDP's platform. This is literally something that the NDP talked about. Justin Trudeau never really spoke about a pharmacare initiative when he was running to be Prime Minister. But now, suddenly, that's what he wants to do. And this is kind of the same thing that I'm talking about when I talk about the Ontario healthcare system. It has to do with the OHIP changes that have happened in Ontario, which allows free drugs for any kids under the age of 24. Kids? Shit, am I still considered a kid? Because I'm only 24. Anyway, moving on from that point. Even though I would benefit from this if I needed drugs, and even though my wife, who could use drugs for a couple of her issues, I don't agree with it. Because along with the opioid crisis that we've had, this is not just the fentanyl crisis, but just opioids in general. This is giving easier access to the demographic that actually abuses it the most. And then then we also got to talk about the price of how much that's going to cost. I mean, by the end of January, there was thousands, if not already over a million, prescriptions that were refilled free of charge. Well, free of charge. It all gets paid through our taxes and government and just grows our debt. So now they want to do this on a national scale. Goodbye, Canada. I loved you. But I get the feeling that with the amount of debt that Justin Trudeau is growing, we're not going to last much longer. I really do have a fear that Justin Trudeau really is going to put our country too far into debt, that we're going to be fucked. We won't ever get out of it. Alright, but I want to thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I'm Adrian Lloyd. This is Just My Stupid Opinion. I'll see you all soon.
Yo.